Time for our Tri-State Office Furniture tweet of the day. Comes from Lernerville Big E. He says, big things coming for ZB NFL. That's Zach Banner, Steelers offensive tackle this season. But today, he and several other Steelers are here passing out school supplies with PPS volunteers. A great day for both the Steelers, Pittsburgh Public Schools. Also, the students, by the way, that were there, they were able to meet Steely McBeam and Iceberg and the Pirate Parrot. Just the three teams in Pittsburgh definitely showed up and showed out today in support of the Pittsburgh Public Schools. And I don't just say that as a PPS alum, although I am grateful, but still. Josh Taylor, Paul Zeise here on a Friday night. 412-575-2600. Give us a call on the Borders and Borders hotline, or you can send me a tweet at Josh Taylor HD. But based on my timeline, I think a few people on my timeline probably want to talk about something else that happened in Chicago. All I'll say is it's clobbering time. If you know, you know. Paul, let's talk about the Steelers defense. We teased this before the break. Joe Schobert, Steelers trade for him. They give up a 6th-round pick. They also rework his contract to open up a little bit of cap space, both this season and moving forward. But the bigger issue here, Schobert let it slip earlier this week that the plan is to make him eventually the primary play caller. He's going to have the green dot sticker on the back of his helmet. Looks like they're trying to get him in as quickly as possible to get him comfortable. Cam Hayward said yesterday they worked on their communication. Your thoughts on this move and how it could help the Steelers defense, Paul?
Well, I mean, I think that's a thing where they probably are a little bit concerned about Devin Bush being 100%. I don't think they're concerned that he's not a good player. I don't think they're concerned that he can't handle the duties. I think they're a little bit concerned that, that Devin Bush coming back from an injury, he's got a lot to learn. He's got a lot to worry about. He's got a lot of things on, why not take this off of his plate? Joe Schobert apparently is a very, high IQ football player. Mike Tomlin, I think that's exactly how he characterized him. It seems like he really knows what he's doing. He's got a good grasp of things, and it seems like he's learned it pretty quickly. So, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think at some point, it'll probably be Devin Bush that gets the, green dot thing or whatever back, and he'll be the guy that does it primarily. But right now, I think they just want him to play football and get back into, where he was flying around the field like he was last year.
I think you summed it up perfectly when you said taking something off Devin Bush's plate. And I think it makes perfect sense because if Joe Schobert's the guy that handles that responsibility, all Devin Bush has to do now is make sure he's aligned, know his assignment, and go do what he does and go hit somebody. That's going to be his job. When you make it that simple and simplify it that well for a guy like Devin Bush, whom for all intents and purposes is really hasn't really had 2 full seasons in the league yet because of injury. So now you're giving him that chance to both grow as a player, and he doesn't have to have all that responsibility right away. It goes to somebody else. He can pick it up somewhere down the line, but he doesn't have to jump into it too quickly, so he can just think and react and go play. Not even think, just react and go play. Let's start with Mike in Brookline. Mike, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, guys. Thanks for hearing me. I wanted to ask you why the Steelers don't run the trap play where the big lineman swings out around the end, blocking for the running back like they used to in the 70s.
Because it's the 2020s, for lack of a better description. Also, in fairness, not to be totally, condescending, up until this season, the Steelers were a primary shotgun team. For how long, Paul? 3-4 years, longer than that?
Yeah. It's
not like they had it drawn up based on the scheme that they were using for so long.
Right. I mean, I think they, if you look at it, they probably had the linemen that were athletic enough to pull it off. But when you get guys like DeCastro and Ramon Foster, and they're aging a little bit, maybe it's a little bit more difficult to do that. That's just not their offensive scheme. It hasn't been for a long, long time. So, I mean, I don't know why they would go back to that, actually.
Yeah, the Steelers' run game, as far as it goes, and as far as history has shown us recently, it's been power to the right, counter to the left, lather, rinse, repeat. That's how they've been doing it, and it's worked for them for so long, and hopefully they can find a way to make it work again with Najee Harris in the backfield. Let's go to Tony in my old stomping ground in the Hill District. Tony, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hello, Josh. Hello, Paul. Somebody please tell me why the NFL keep giving Antonio Brown 4th and 5th and 6th chances, because they said he got kicked out of practice for soccer punching a teammate. Why is this guy still in the league, man? I mean, because do you guys think he's going to last with this team?
Last year worked out for him, didn't it, Paul? Or did I miss something?
Here's the thing. They had a joint practice with, was it Jacksonville? I think they had a joint practice with. Antonio Brown and one of the corners from Jacksonville got into a little fisticuff. Antonio Brown yanks his helmet off and I guess apparently hits him. Then they toss him out of the practice. What? Josh, that's probably something that I would be willing to bet happens every single day, anytime they put the pads on, even at practices when you're going against your own guys. So you got two teams out there, right? They're competitive. They're getting at it. This is the biggest non-story in the history of non-stories. And frankly, if it was Antonio Jones or Antonio Smith or Anthony, you know what I mean? It was Anthony Brown or something. Instead of Antonio Brown, it was some other guy. Nobody would have even talked about this.
Or like Dan Moore, perhaps. Or if it was Dan Moore more than once.
Right.
Because that's
Exactly.
actually happened this preseason.
But that's my point. I mean, guys get into fights all the time. The only reason it was a story is because it was Antonio Brown. And you know, as you know, listen, people say whatever they want to say about Antonio Brown, right? But when he's on the field, in the confines of competing, that guy is playing to win. He's a very competitive guy. He brings it, and he's always brought it. And so, you know what? I mean, it doesn't shock me that he got into a little fisticuffs. I mean, the guy plays to win.
And I'll say it again, last year worked out pretty well for him and his quarterback, so I think they're okay. Let's go to Ronald in East Liberty. Ronald, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Yeah, this is Ron Tate from Bell Bar Gardens. I want to ask you about Deontay Johnson. I think he had an excellent preseason, and I think he should get some more calls during the regular season because he's going to be a great asset for the team this year.
Love when Ron Tate calls in. Good to talk to you again. To his point, Deontay Johnson is a guy that I think is a guy who has, I won't say he has something to prove, but I think he will prove some people wrong. I think last year the issues that he had with the drops were something that everybody seemed to focus on more than anything else. But the problem that's getting ignored with that is that he was a guy who was trusted with a lot of targets. And I think he'll be trusted with a lot more targets this season, especially in an offense, Paul, and I can't help but go back to this time and time again. This offense under Matt Canada is pretty much designed for the defense to help you figure out where the ball's going to go as the quarterback. And I think there's going to be a lot of times where Deontay Johnson ends up being that option where the ball goes. So if that's the case, I think he'll have a lot of opportunity to prove people wrong this year.
Right, and I think the other thing is he'll be the guy that we see do some of those jet sweeps and some of those things where they hand it to him. And when he's got the ball in his hands, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say he's probably the most dangerous non-running back. I mean, obviously Najee Harris is what he is, but I mean, if you put the ball in his hands and he's got it, after, you know, he has it secured, he's pretty dangerous and can make a lot of things happen. So I would think they're going to use him a lot, put him in the game plan a lot, and frankly, it wouldn't hurt me. It wouldn't hurt to use him at returner, both kicks and punts. I don't know why they don't try and do that as much as they possibly can with him. He's a guy I want to have the ball in his hands.
Yeah, and playmakers at receiver are what you need in this offense. I keep reminding people when it comes to the Steelers in this offense and receivers. Remember when Pitt's offense looked like 5 years ago with what Quadric Henderson did routinely in that offense and how he just looked like a star because that offense gave him the opportunity to use his talent and maximize it? That's what you want out of this offense. That's what you hope to get out of it. And maybe, like you said, Paul, a guy like Deontay Johnson can benefit from it. We got to take another break. We'll talk a little bit more when we come back. Stick around.